Okay, so this presentation is about California, and my husband wanted to take a trip to California. He had lived there in the past for a couple of summers, and he just wanted to revisit. So I agreed to go as long as I could book a pelagic, which I was able to do. So that comes later on. First is just a picture of the coast, and you can see the succulents along the edge. This is very different than what we see here in Louisiana. And this was along the Great Highway. Here's a picture on the other side of the highway, which shows you the treescapes, and it's very different from what we have here. If there are any birds hanging out, they're all going to be up at the top of these trees, and it's going to be impossible to see. So we did not bird this area, but just to show you what the landscape looks like. So this is looking out into the ocean, and to the left you can see a structure. This is called Cliff House, and it was a restaurant, and it was many different versions of this building, which burned down. A couple of them burned down to the ground, and this is the current structure. It is vacant. It was a restaurant, and they still have parking here, and they're looking to put vendors in, but now it's owned by the National Park Service, and they're looking for vendors, so hopefully they'll get up. But they also want to put some kind of a museum or observatory in the structure, so hopefully that will get done. You can see these rocky formations off the coast, and there is beach. So zooming in a little bit, I managed to see some gulls. There's some brown pelicans. And most of these gulls are western gulls and Heermann's gulls. You can barely see a couple of red bills in this crevice here. And these ended up zooming in at home, oyster catchers, black oyster catchers, which are all black. So that was something I wasn't aware of until I came home and put it on the computer screen. So the next day, we decided to go on an excursion to Muir Woods, which is something that everyone should see. It's a beautiful forest, not a lot of birds. You're certainly not going to see many. I mostly heard birds, and I think it was a total of 5 species. So you should go there, but don't expect to see a lot of birds. And the second part of the excursion was to continue by bus to Sausalito, which is a lovely little city, and you can do some shopping and have lunch. And the way to get home from Sausalito, we opted to take a ferry. And I was hoping to see some birds in the ferry, on the ferry ride, which did not happen. But I did see elegant tern in the harbor, which was nice. I saw a half dozen. They had buoys scattered out, and they were perched on it. Very diagnostic, long, elongated bill, thin bill. So we headed out the next morning to Rodeo Lagoon. This is located right on the Pacific coast, and it's brackish water. It's 6 feet deep at the most, and it's a 37-acre park. So you can park at the trailhead and walk along this lagoon, and you can drive further up to another trailhead, which is more along the Pacific coast. So this is just looking at the lagoon, and the parking area is in the back on the right-hand side behind these tall shrubs. And here's the trailhead, and you're looking back towards the ocean. You can see in the distance a sand bridge that separates the ocean from the brackish water. Now, the ocean does not come into this lagoon. In fact, the lagoon will fill with water during the rainy season, and it will overflow into the ocean. So it remains brackish. To the right-hand side of this slide, there were a lot of birds in the bushes, and mainly bush tit, which I did get a photo of. But if you look straight ahead at this picture, you'll see a telephone pole and power line. And I did have western tanager and western bluebird on this power line, along with the California scrub jay perched on the side. So here's a picture of the bush tit, and there were many. They were very vocal. There was a lot of movement, and they're not the easiest to photograph, but this is bush tit. So we proceeded to walk along the path, and we came upon golden crowned sparrow. This is winter plumage. It's very plain, but you can see a little hint of gold on the top of his head. Otherwise, not real remarkable. And it was with a white crowned sparrow, which there's a lot of white crowned sparrows to see. We saw a song sparrow as well. But this is a bird I looked hard for in Shreveport and got lucky. But here's one I found here. You can see the little bit of yellow at the top of his head. Very cooperative out on the mulched path. So moving along, we had fox sparrow. Now this is a subspecies called sooty fox sparrow. It's the darkest subspecies, and this one was right off the trail, obviously looking at us, but not worried at all, just continuing looking for food, and eventually came out onto the path. So we went a little further down the path, and I heard some vocalization, not sure what it was, but a couple of birds were interacting, and I managed to find wren tit and get a picture. These are kind of plain. They do have a vanilla eye and kind of rusty gray overall. Not real remarkable, but and not the easiest to photograph because they're very skulky, but I did find wren tit. There were some wading birds. We did see pelicans and cormorants and shorebirds, but eared grebe was something I was looking for. And these differ from horn grebes because they have a dome-shaped head, and the distinction between the white and the black is blurry. So you can tell the difference in these photographs. So we had 4 eared grebes. And so we drove up to the Pacific trailhead, and this is walking along the path. You can see all these different succulents, some of them blooming, all different colors. It's just so different than anything we see here. And here's the ocean. You can see this cliff, this rocky structure. I'm trying to see if there's any birds on it. And I managed to zoom in a little bit closer. And in the dark areas out towards the ocean, there are cormorants perched. Can't really see it in this slide, but that's, I'm looking for other birds, but apparently that's all I was seeing was cormorants. And the next slide will show you the sand bridge. Now, just to show you the scale of this, these little dots on that beach are people. This is how big this area is. You could continue along the path across the bridge around it, but there wasn't much going on the other side. The bush, the understory was on the other side, the near side of the lagoon. So the next day, my husband wanted to go to Lake Merced. This is a series of 3 lakes, and he used to work here. Where this pin is dropped is a boathouse, and he used to work in the summer as a teenager, bailing out the boats, but he wanted to revisit, so we did. It's right by the coast, and it's over 600 acres with over 4 miles of hiking paths. So the lower lake had a lot of gulls, over 100 western gulls, and they're a bit too far away, and I didn't want to concentrate on trying to ID every gull. So I looked to the north pond, and these are freshwater. Right near the recreation area was a big tree, and I'm not sure what this was. I still don't know, but it looked like some kind of a bottle brush. It had some blooms, and when you got a closer look, You could see it's some kind of a bottle brush. So there were birds' nectar on it. I managed to get a picture of an anise, and I have done a dozen anise in this park. If anything was blooming, they were fighting over it. So this was nice to see. And I had Nuttall's woodpecker. They look like ladderback. You can see these feathers striping on the back, but it has a dark cheek. So that would differentiate this from Nuttall's. And this is a male. And I did have a female as well. Chestnut-backed chickadee was present, along with some blue-gray gnatcatchers and orange crown warblers. I did have lesser goldfinches and song sparrows, but I did see also white crown sparrows, which were posing for me. And here's a better picture. Pretty sparrow. And Clark's grebe. There were two. This kind of looks like a western grebe, but it's got a very orange bill. And the white that you see alongside the black cap will go above the eye, and that will help you differentiate between Clark's grebe and western grebe. And here's a picture of the anise that were fighting over the flowers. You can see starting to get his colors. And here's another side shot, just showing you the gorget coming in. These are bigger than ruby-throated hummingbirds. They have a very dark breast, and you'll just notice a size difference. It will look bigger to you. Even if it's a female, you can tell. So here's the highlight of the trip. This is why I went. I was able to book this pelagic through Alvaro's. The website was Alvaro's Adventures, and he does do other trips, but this is the one I was interested in. It's a half hour from South San Francisco where I was staying. So that was reasonable. I had rented a car, and this was perfect. So off we went. Now, this first bird we saw was Brandt's cormorant. It's identifiable by this white throat patch, which is visible in all plumages and ages, and it's got a blue eye, so it's different than anything we see here in Louisiana. I have another shot on top of the jetty, and this is early in the morning. I had to lighten this slide, but you can see the throat patch readily. This is a pelagic cormorant. It's all dark with a plain face, a long, thin bill, and it does have white patches, which is visible. It's on its back sides, on the sides of its rump, and it's visible when it's swimming or in flight. We had a lot of western gulls. This was the predominant gull. Pink legs, bigger than herring gull, a little darker, and it's got a red spot on its bill. We also had Heermann's gulls, and I think these are really pretty gulls. It looks almost airbrushed. They have this red bill with a black tip, black legs, and just pale gray underneath and a little darker on the back. Here's a close-up. So the first pelagic bird that we saw offshore was Buller's shearwater. And this one is identified by, you can see this pattern on its back, and it's white underneath from its throat all the way under. So easily identifiable. It was the most common shearwater that we saw. And this bird breeds in New Zealand. It's a member of the tube-nosed family, and these breed in South America. So they're long-distance migrants. And here's a picture of shearwaters. bullers. You can see the white underneath and the white, completely white under the wing. And they would be in groups, where here, if we go into pelagic out of Venice, you might hope to see a shearwater. Well, the numbers of this were really something to see. So here's just one group of buller shearwater. Then we were surprised to see a black-footed albatross. Now this bird breeds in Hawaii, and it's got a wingspan of perhaps 7 feet. It was following the boat, which they will do, just looking for handouts. But we were also chumming. They had a license to chum, and they had a big container with menhaden oil that was dripped from a very tiny tube going into the water. Well, this thing popped up and hung with us for a long time. It was right up the side of the boat. Here it is running along the surface to get a piece of squid, which it did. And it kept flying overhead. I mean, it was hard to get a picture. It was so close. We did seagulls. This is Sabin's gull. We say Sabines here. They say Sabin's gull. Very identifiable with this white triangle and dark forewing. You can see this from the underneath as well. We had Polar Skuas, and this is really, it's a South Polar Skua. And these are all dark. You can see it's got white wing flashes on the ventral surface, and on the dorsal, it's got, you can see these white wing shafts. And it's a predator and pirater. It is chasing other birds, trying to steal their food. It breeds in Antarctica. So this is something that you just happen to see. It's not extremely rare, but it's unusual to see. Another shearwater we saw was sooty. Not many of these, but this is just a little bit of white on the top and an otherwise dark shearwater. Storm petrels. This is a Wilson storm petrel. Little white rump patch, and these kind of fly bat-like across the surface. Hard to photograph, but you can see the legs are past the tail. This is diagnostic of a Wilson storm petrel. Ashy storm petrel. It's half the size of black. It's a little bit grayer. It's a little more erratic. And other than that, it's hard to tell the difference between the two. But I did get black storm petrel as well. Then we had auklets. Hassan's auklet is grapefruit size, and auklets it's a member of alcids, which includes mures, common mures, auklets, and puffins. And their legs are located towards the back of their body, so when they're on shore, they stand upright. So they're referred to as the penguins of the north. Now this bird is very grayish. It's got a white eyebrow and a pale eye, which sticks out of its dark head. It doesn't fly well. It's got to run across the water to get up enough speed to fly. And here's an immature bird. I'm thinking this might be an immature common mure or rhinoceros auklet. I couldn't quite tell what this was, but anyway, it's open to suggestions. Another Cassin's auklet. You can see the white eye arc. And pink-footed shearwater. These are the biggest shearwaters we saw. white underneath, just white kind of down the middle of their wings, not nearly as white as a buller's, and pink feet. These breed in Chile. Here's another picture. And finally the top. It's a very heavy bird. Common mure. This is a winter plumage with this black line coming from the eye. This is a nice pose where you see him upright. This is how they would be standing on the tundra. This breeds in the Arctic tundra. And another shot. It said the males travel with the chicks in fall. This is a mola, and it's an ocean sunfish. You can see how flat it is. You're curious as to what in the world it is, but anyway, it's a member of the pufferfish, and it's got little triangular fins, which allow it to come to the surface and let gulls land on it and eat the parasites off. So this is a funny fin. And a picture of his face. Now these can get 10 feet across and weigh 2 tons. So they can get real large. We saw 2. And surf scoter, which was close to the marina when we were leaving. This is a female type, just a little smudge by her eye. We had rhinoceros auklets. These have a horn-like protuberance that they lose in the fall. They also have white plumes that are less obvious now. But when they're breeding, it's a long trail. You can see it's got a light-colored eye. It's a very dark bird. This isn't just the exposure. You can see remnants of the plumes on the light-colored eye. And another picture, you can see a little bit of the horn. We had parasitic Jaeger and Pomeranian Jaeger. They both have white shafts that are visible. This one has a long tail, and it's not as mottled on the ventral surface, which you can see with Pomeranian Jaeger. Pomeranian Jaegers are usually in molt in the fall, which is evident here, and you can see the white in the shafts, mottled appearance. We had red-necked phalarope. These are tiny shorebirds, and they winter at sea. Just a little mask and then black cap will help to identify these. They're very small. They're skittish, skittering across the water. I thought it was flying fish at first, but it's red-necked phalarope. And the puffin, and this is something I really was dreaming of seeing right close to the boat. I mean, I don't know how many pictures of this. You had to narrow it down, but it's not like they do much. But it was so close. You just kept taking pictures. It's got a light-colored eye, and it's a bicolored bill. And this is winter plumage. Just posing right next to the boat. So, of course, I took multiple pictures. Little remnants of wings. It's not, I'm sure it's not a strong flyer. We had California sea lions. very noisy group, large group, perhaps feeding. I'm assuming that's what they're doing. Very raucous. We also had Pacific white-sided dolphins, and we did have blue whale. Not good looks, but they could tell by the blow that it was a blue whales. We had humpback whales, multiple groups. So if you were going on a whale watching trip, it would be easy to find because we encountered a lot of humpbacks. California gull. I have a better picture. I'm just showing the white in the primaries here that are part of the identification. And here you'll see, this is a winter bird. It's mottled. You can still see red and black spots on its bill and yellow-green legs. Hawaiian Petrel. This one breeds in Hawaii and summers in the open sea. It's scarce, but I think the numbers are increasing, but it is a surprise to see it on the pelagic, and it was very nice to see. It's got a white throat and underbelly, white in the wings, white forehead. That's really what you're looking for. So here's another view. Underneath. So that ends the pelagic, and the next day we were going to go to the Golden Gate Park. It's a huge park. It's 20% bigger than Central Park, and there are a series of gardens. This one is Shakespeare's garden. So this is where we parked, and immediately ran into a birder who at one point maintained the begonia section of the park. So this is a split shot slide showing you some of the flowers that he used to take care of. And his name is Rob, and he was very helpful. I just stopped someone who I saw and had binoculars and asked him where it was the best place to bird in the park. And he says, well, come along. So I tagged along with him. And before we left that area, I had California scrub jay, vocal, as jays will be, and managed to get most of him in the picture that you can tell. And Steller's jay. And this is just a really neat looking bird with these funny markings, blue markings above his bill, black crown, and half black, half blue. Just a stunning bird. I always wanted to get a decent look. We had lesser goldfinch, and the next slide will show you the plumage, the dorsal surface, which is really pretty. So that was nice to see two of them interacting. And Townsend's warbler. I misidentified this bird years ago, but managed to correct myself. We were with a group and we were trying to make it some kind of a Blackburnian or black-throated green, but then wisely someone in the group, Kathy DeSalvo, said, well, unless it's a Townsend's. So we went back and got pictures, and sure enough, it was a Townsend's. But these are in good numbers there throughout the garden. It's got a black mask and yellow. It's yellow, not orange, and it has a yellow breast. So this should be an easy bird to identify. It's very cooperative. You can see the feathers, patterns on its head and back. Hermit thrush, which we see here in the wintertime, but they're easy to fish out. It's got the red tail, and it chuck, 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 and it'll come out. Brewer's blackbird. It's a heavy blackbird, big blackbird with this funny yellow eye. Looks kind of flat looking. and California towhee. Now, my husband, we visited his mother's house, and there were two in the front lawn, which just caught me by surprise because I wasn't thinking there'd be anything on their property. It's very urban. There's not a lot of trees, but she had two on her front lawn. Rusty undertail, kind of plain, with its small bill, California towhee. We had black phoebe. It's light underneath, but very dark black. Fly catching on the grass you see to the right. And dark-eyed junco. This is an Oregon subspecies. It's pink on the sides with a black hood and dark eye. So this is just some of the trees they had. This is the Australian section of the park, and they had this tree that's making these roots. They have to keep cutting them. I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, it's just a real unusual looking tree. Another shot, it's to the right, but these are these beautiful tree ferns. I think that was my favorite part, was the Australian section. I took a picture of this nameplate. This is a red flowering gum. You can see in the left-hand corner what these flowers, it kind of looks like a bottle brush type of flower. And it was a huge tree, so I'm sure that they'd have birds working over this. Here's one of the lakes in the park. Just beautiful. Over in the left-hand corner, there's a great blue that you can't really see by these big leaves in the water. And this is a bottle brush. You can see in the lower right, there's a structure that is 10 feet tall. So this is probably a 30-foot bottle brush tree, which is unbelievable. So I can't imagine the hummingbirds in this. Here's another bottle brush, just a pink one. I'd like them all. And there was a red one. This is a smaller one with different needles, leaves, and tassel-like red flower. Iochroma. I've seen hummingbirds use this, and I want to say it was Thibodeau, Louisiana. I'd like one for my yard. But I had another one that I took pictures of with this one. Just, it's a bigger flower. You can see how small the anise is on this plant. So we finished up at the Japanese tea garden, and this is the entrance. All different kind of trees. Going a little further, and they had some decorative buildings here that they were not for use, but just to view. Many stories, all different kind of trees. Paths with waterfalls and bridges and everything. These look like bonsais, really. Everything's so manicured. So we decided to have lunch in the tea garden, and we're sitting looking out into the garden, and you could see a waterfall, and I could barely see something move, and there's a hummingbird right in the middle of this slide, which I managed to get a picture of, which was bathing in the waterfall. This is an anise. You can see how dark it is, green on the back. So I'm going to end it here. So thank you very much.